All right, thank you folks for coming to today's Lunch and Learn. As I'm sure you all know, Lunch and Learns are a coordination between Alaska Sea Grant and BBEDC, and we just do short little 1-hour sessions about topics that are of importance to Bristol Bay residents, and it counts towards part of the mandatory training that BBEDC subscribers need. So every 1 hour of Lunch and Learn counts as 2 hours of training. You can come up here, Mr. Rogers, you're welcome. Today we're going to talk about the Seafood Innovation Center feasibility study. And first I would like to acknowledge that I'm on the land of the Chug-Yum tribe in Dillingham. Land acknowledgements, in addition to appreciating the land that we're able to live on, also acknowledges colonization. And it's a reminder to listen, learn, and respect Indigenous wisdom. So I'm the one presenting today's Lunch and Learn. And yeah, I grew up here in Dillingham and Naknek and Palmer. I started fishing when I was 12 and did it for 8 years or so, and then left a long time. And then after I got out of the Navy, I came back and started fishing again in 2018 and started running my own boat in 2020. And so I've kind of been engaged in the fishing industry in Bristol Bay for most of my life. So a lot of like my approach to these things and my approach to my job with Alaska Sea Grant as a Marine Advisory Program agent is based on that. And so this is just a feasibility study. This is not we're like actively building or immediately going to be building something. I just want to make sure that I set the stage correctly, that we're just talking about a feasibility study and not, we're going to break ground immediately or anything. So just so everyone has realistic expectations. And we're actually only going to be talking about the feasibility study itself, the last 5 slides or so. There's a lot of setup that's going to lead us to the feasibility study. So if you have questions about it, I'm sorry, but please wait until the last 5 slides are done, because I might answer your questions then.
I'm sorry, your name again was?
Tav Ammu.
Tommy.
Hey, Tommy.
You've been around here for several years, you said, your whole life, you said, pretty much?
Yeah, I grew up here in Naknek, and then Palmer, and then after college, I left Alaska for teaching overseas and stuff in the military.
Okay, so just a quick question, Cap.
Yeah.
Is your dad Max?
Yeah.
Okay, I met you a couple of years ago on the Gusties.
Okay.
Yeah, the Lone Ranger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to see you again.
Yeah. I had to ask you.
Yeah. So the Sea Grant Association, it's 34 sea grants around the country. It's in every Great Lakes state and the coastal states. And this is a map of where they're located. They're part NOAA, part National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and part University of that state. So in Alaska, we're University of Alaska Fairbanks, but it's different in each state. We are a non-advocacy group, so we can't like advocate for one thing or another. We only give science and information and try to help out, but we do not advocate for things, which comes into play with this project. We have 4 strategic focus areas: resilient communities and economies, sustainable fisheries and aquaculture, healthy coastal ecosystems, and environmental literacy and workforce development. So this is the Alaska Sea Grant team. This was a picture of us a couple of years ago at our annual meeting. And last year we had our annual meeting in Cordova. And one of the things that we talked about, we had a presentation from the native village of Eak, and they work with ADF&G and co-manage the salmon fishery there and co-research the salmon fishery there. And one of the things that they talked about was how they make decisions based on how will this affect us 50 to 100 years in the future. It's not how will this affect us immediately, but I think very long-term, multi-generational. And I think it's a great approach to take and one that I think would fit well with this project. So Sea Grant agents are located around Alaska, and we all have different specialties and focus on different things depending on our location. But you know, in different areas, like Gay Sheffield is in Nome, and she works on human health and subsistence. Kodiak has a big group, as we saw in the last picture. There's 4 agents in Kodiak, and they work on a variety of things: seaweed and shellfish mariculture, processing innovation, business and marketing support, applied harmful algal bloom research and outreach. I focus on marine safety training and marine education, vocational training, and the commercial fishing apprenticeship program, which I put some flyers out in front of folks. I'll talk a little bit about it when we talk about workforce development, but if you're interested in learning more about it, it's there's 4 different tiers, and those are listed on the handouts in front of you. A lot of areas work on community vulnerability and response, and then in Southeast, they're working on invasive species training and response, particularly as it relates to European green crab. So we do a variety of different things all over the state, and we kind of focus our what we work on based on the community's needs and how we can help. So some of the issues that I'm sure folks are aware of for Bristol Bay are infrastructure, housing, workforce development, and a lot of issues surrounding salmon, like graying of the fleet and knowledge, permit out-migration, and crew member out-migration. There's more issues and topics that we could talk about, but I think these are the main ones that kind of relate to the Seafood Innovation Center feasibility study. So those are the ones that we're kind of honing in on for this. But if folks here want to talk about more options and focus areas for the Innovation Center, we absolutely can. So this is a graphic from Rachel Donkersloot about key domains of well-being. A lot of things come into play when addressing well-being and livelihood and healthy, happy, fruitful life. And a lot of what we'll be focusing on with the Seafood Innovation Center is mostly focused around the economy and livelihood. So it shan't be solving everything or addressing everything, but hopefully it does help in that respect, or could help in that respect. And then this is a graphic by Jamie O'Connor that shows that there's a lot of different interested parties when it comes to seafood and the seafood industry, and that we don't anticipate one thing solving everything and being perfect solution, and we're not trying to solve every issue at once, but just kind of help and communicate and share and gain information and learn the priorities and interests from each group and each individual to try to figure out the best options available. Okay, so this is a graphic. Okay, so this is a graphic. It's kind of hard to see. It's kind of light. I apologize, but this shows the amount of sockeye salmon in Alaska. And as you can see, the graph of Bristol Bay is way above any of the other areas of sockeye salmon in Alaska. So I think this is a good visual representation of like the amount of sockeye salmon in Bristol Bay is just incredible. It's fantastic, and it's a wonderful resource that we need to continue to sustain and encourage. This graph ends at 2015, but as we can see, like the line is going really far up, and then as you can see, it continues going up and stays up after 2015. So that graph ends at 2015. This one continues on to the forecast of 2025. But it stays very high. So we've been doing a great job managing the sockeye salmon and having sustainability in regards to sockeye salmon. And that's incredibly important. Not every place has been so lucky and has been doing it so well. So that's a huge aspect that I think has been done sustainably well. Unfortunately, as I'm sure most people know, the permits have not been doing the same thing. So this is a graphic that shows the permit decline in Bristol Bay. So limited entry permits for the Bristol Bay salmon drift fishery are 1,875 and 1,100 set net permits. But as you can see, they've been going down immensely. Drift negative 57% and set net negative 44% change. So even though we've been doing a good job maintaining the sockeye abundance here, permit outmigration has been decreasing substantially. So that's a piece of the puzzle. Another thing is the amount of catch that's occurring of the sockeye salmon. So the amount has been going down and down by resident, particularly resident rural. So it was a larger amount, now it's a lesser amount. And there was a study that was done and a lunch and learn that was presented on a few years ago that talked about how for every dollar that's made in our seafood industry, it creates $1.54 in that community that the permit resides in. But if the permit doesn't reside in that, like in Dillingham, it doesn't stimulate the economy that amount. That's going back to wherever that permit resides. So if someone lives in Washington and they, are making $1, they're stimulating the economy in Washington $1.54, not here. So I think that's something to keep in mind too. And this shows the change in ex-vessel volume and price over the past 15 years. So as you can see, the ex-vessel price has, up and down, but seems pretty similar throughout. And this year, it was $1.30 a pound with all the, at least for a couple of the processors, with all the benefits for chilling and bleeding and whatnot. All right. So that's just to set the stage about permits, sockeye, price, economy. Last year, there was a legislative task force that was made for the Alaska seafood industry. And that was because, so the chair, Representative Gary Stevens, described the seafood industry in Alaska as being in a state of crisis. And that's why they created that task force. The reason was to accomplish two goals: identify elements of the seafood industry that can be solved through government policy and action on the part of the industry, and develop a long-term vision for Alaska's seafood industry. So they recognized that our seafood industry could use a lot of help, and they spent 5 months interviewing folks and having presentations on how best to do that. And so I have the report right here if people want to read more about it. It's got a lot of great information in it, but I boiled down to 3 main focus areas, and then I'll show the 3 main issues that they talked about, how we're kind of addressing them or attempting to address them or not addressing them, and then how the Seafood Innovation Center could possibly fit into this. So labor and workforce development, that was one of their key areas. Make sure they broke it up to near term and mid to long term. Near term was in the next like 1 to 2 years sort of thing, and long term was up to 10 years. So not super long, definitely not like in the same sort of frame as the Native Village V Act for their research and co-management, but still thinking it in that 2 different sections. So Working on reviewing Department of Labor and workforce development programs to align our resources with the seafood industry. And then mid to long term, support and expand maritime workforce development programs with an emphasis on seafood processing technologies, vessel operations and maintenance skills, and provide workforce and seasonal housing options in seafood processing community. So we've identified that need for the workforce development within Alaska Sea Grant as well, and we're attempting to address it. 5 years ago, we did a research project called Food from the Sea, supporting the needs of the next generation. What we did is we did interviews and surveys and held focus groups about what do new entrants to the commercial fishing industry need. And we boiled it down to 6 main areas: vessel maintenance and repair, safety, crew and deckhand skills, financial management, regulatory process, and marketing. And then within those 6 areas, we had them rank what was most important at the beginning, what was least important at the beginning. So basically, brand new greenhorns, never set foot on a boat. What kind of skills do we want them to know? And so this graph is kind of confusing, but it's basically saying that the top 3 most important things for new entrants are safety, crew deckhand skills, and vessel maintenance and repair, in that order. And the least important for brand new folks was marketing, regulatory process, and financial management. So as we talked about for the skipper apprenticeship program, that's kind of what we're trying to do, is we're addressing it in order of most important for new crew members coming on board. What do they need to know to be an asset, and then building from that. They do that for a year, and then they commercial fish and come back and build upon that. And then they commercial fish and come back and build upon it. And so like they're relating it back and forth between their on-the-job experience, what they see on board, and then can ask questions in the classroom and possibly get more information or more depth or whatever in a classroom safe learning environments where they can talk to, you know, a refrigeration technician and take apart a refrigerated seawater system. Whereas on the boat, they can see it in action, but they may not be able to take everything apart. So we're trying to address the commercial fishing industry and workforce development. And then also, you know, this could benefit supplemental industries as well. So if someone takes our introduction to MIG welding aluminum class and they really like that and they decide they want to become a welder, then they can transition over to that. So it can not only address the commercial fishing crew member new entrants, but also the supplementing industries as well. And that's something that we're doing here in Bristol Bay, and we're looking at expanding throughout Alaska, but our focus right now, and my focus is on the trains in Bristol Bay. So if you have questions about it, please reach out to me. Another thing they brought up was research and development. Near term, encourage the University of Alaska to prioritize applied research and projects aimed at solving technical and operational challenges in fisheries while supporting product development and quality improvement. So this is something that the Kodiak Seafood and Marine Science Center does really well. They put on a bunch of classes, they do a bunch of trainings for every level, and their goal is to increase the value of the fishing industry and marine resources through research, technological development, education, and service. They use research and development facility. They have kitchens, they have biochemistry labs, they have food labs. They'll be coming, one of the teachers there will be coming to Dillingham to teach a smoked seafood school about like similar to what they do there in Kodiak with their smoked seafood and HACCP program, the hazard analysis critical control point, which is basically saying in each stage of like fishing, harvesting the fish, cleaning the fish, processing the fish, getting it out, at each stage, keeping it safe and within levels so that when it gets to the consumer, it's not at a dangerous place or there aren't contaminants or anything to it. So they'll be coming and teaching that here so we can see like what are the requirements and regulations and whatnot involved in that. And then infrastructure. So aging and insufficient infrastructure significantly impacts operational costs, product quality, and competitive position. And they had some suggestions for near term. And I mean, this is a huge thing right here. Creation of cold storage facilities through public-private partnerships and a mix of federal, state, and private investment. Prioritize energy generation and grid development in coastal Alaska with an emphasis on western regions of Alaska. And then for mid to long term, port infrastructure and cold storage, extend runways and airport infrastructure for logistical reasons. So expanding on infrastructure opportunities, particularly in western Alaska, would be, they recognize as one of the huge deterrents to improving our seafood value and growing and increasing economic opportunity, particularly in western Alaska. Yeah, those are the big takeaways from the legislative task force. And then taking a step back, so this isn't the first time that we've talked about a seafood innovation center. And I use that term because when we were discussing this concept years ago, Christina, Patty at the city, we came up with the term Seafood Innovation Center because of what it was trying to cover. But there's been quite a few different names, and I see Greta has raised her hand. So Greta, would you like to talk about the Seafood Industrial Park? You're muted, I think.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
I'm here late mostly for my daughter, who's indigenous to Bristol Bay, and this is pretty frustrating because our family has invested pretty much all of our fishing money and some of our other business money and retirement on into trying to get something like this going, and she has had no help. I mean, we have bought land, we have a blast freezer ready to go up there, we have a processing facility in a freezer container to just freeze in the round. So we have a value adding facility down here where I live in Coos Bay finally, and with a commercial kitchen and a processing room and a blast freezer. And I mean, our big problem, I mean, I guess it's just frustrating to see everybody now all of a sudden willing to help somebody who wants to do this after we've done this for years, trying to get to where we're at. And our big problem is a fisherman's crane, just a crane to get our fish off of our boat. That's one of our huge problems, and ice. And I don't know, I bought a set net permit to try to do it. I mean, that's cost prohibitive because you have to pay on and on and on. And I guess the main reason I came here is to say, and I've taken the smoking class in Kodiak, I've taken the HACCP classes, I'm HACCP certified, I've done all that stuff. And I guess I'm here to ask, how does someone who's already done it on their own at their family's expense get help with this? Or do we just wait for all this to happen? And you know, we fish out of Naknek, so if this is in Dillingham, you know, I don't know. I guess that's all I really have to say. That it's frustrating. I think this is great, but You know, who's getting paid out of this? Is it the people trying to organize it, or is it actually people who are doing the fishing and trying to value add to their products so that they can continue to have a viable business? I guess that's all I had to say. Sorry, I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything. It's just, um, you know, maybe there needs to be something's missing, I guess, maybe.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in talking more about this with you and hearing your thoughts about it. I don't have strong suggestions for where to go from here. It sounds like you're doing the right stuff with the blast freezer and processing facility. And I think that's
Well, it's just a little bit more after every fishing season, you know, because it's out of pocket. And then we're trying to get, you know, markets going, and then in comes everybody with a I don't know, a free facility. I don't know. And then we're just left in the dust after, you know, eking out a viable option to process her fish, you know, and give some back to her village. And I mean, she has good ideas and she's really been trying for a long time. So it's just frustrating that there's money out there somewhere that we haven't obviously been able to find. And uh, I guess I'm just wondering where that is, or who to contact, or who she can contact.
Christina, do you have, I see you raise your hand. Did you want to address that?
Yeah, Greta, where are you residing year round outside of the fishing industry?
I grew up in Kenai, but now I'm married an Oregonian, so I'm in Coos Bay, Oregon, where our little plant is. But my daughter still lives in Alaska. She's originally from Togiak, and she we both have permits in the bay, and so do my brothers.
Where is she residing? Year
Anchorage,
round? Anchorage. Okay.
maybe in Naknek. I don't know. She's thinking about that, but I doubt. I don't know what she's gonna do.
So like just initial thoughts. I don't know who's all in the room, Tav, but like in thinking about this, like the fishing industry is really frustrating to be invested in. And I feel like some history around like the monetization of the limited entry permit system has really exacerbated that to local fishermen. And you may be already familiar with this history. I'm sorry if I'm being redundant, but like, you know, I'm a local fisherman as well, and it's really, I'm looking at purchasing my own vessel, and it's like terrifying at the same time as it is exciting. And I think a huge part of it is because like I'm looking at probably having to put multiple tens of thousands of dollars into a down payment and then having significant annual payments. I just met with a financial counselor yesterday and they suggested, and I'll be transparent just because I don't have any problems being transparent, but it's looking like an estimated $22,000 a year in annual payments just for a boat. And that's something that I'm probably not going to get a lot of assistance on. I do know that if your daughter resides or you yourself would reside in a CDQ community, there are CDQs across the state, which is separate from the system that TAV is operating in through the university.
Yeah.
And those provide those grants, not 100% grants, but some partial grants to fishermen. But you have to reside in the CDQ community year round. You can't be gone for more than 60 days. That has to be your primary residence.
Right.
And so, but there are systems at play behind the scenes that are like, looking at this discrepancy, like Rachel Donker slew it, and there's a whole working group behind it trying to figure out how we can like overcome this financial barrier for entry into the fishery, because it is a huge issue. But unfortunately, like the way America business is set up, like there's not a lot of handouts for businesses that are designed to make money for an individual. It's kind of like this expectation of like you have to go and make your own way. And it's, as a fisherman, it's really frustrating if you're not like one of the like highliners, and it can be terrifying and it can sink you financially. But I think that's the whole principle behind this Seafood Innovation Center. When I was first at the drawing board, is like, let's find a system like this that's accessible to as many people as possible through the UA system that can leverage this to help. It might not take away a huge chunk of the financial burden, but it'll make you more efficient at doing the different components of the business so that you can maybe save time, which, you know, time is money. And so that's kind of, I think, Tav, stop me if I'm misspeaking, but like that's kind of the premise behind having like the Seafood Industrial Park or Seafood Innovation Center, is to help people become more efficient at this so that we can save money. Maybe we start building our own cranes or whatever, if that's part of the program that somebody enlists in. But like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
just my thoughts.
And Greta, I will say, I know you didn't, you said you arrived a little bit late. I haven't gotten to that nuts and bolts of the Seafood Innovation Center yet, but part of what we're going to be doing is reaching out to individuals to hear what would help them the most. And if, like in your case, cranes would be the most beneficial, figuring that out and where. And if you want, I can finish this presentation, then we can talk more about it, unless you had another comment you wanted to share.
I guess I'm wondering, oh wait, can you hear me?
Yeah,
So
you're good.
that's that technology, but I mean, why not put these, I mean, some of the villages have, if you really want to benefit the people that live out there, why is it happening in Dillingham? I mean, why can't it, there's already infrastructure in some of the villages, and if you want to directly, you know, make the most impact for locals, I don't feel like Dillingham is the best place. Even Naknek, you know, I mean, are you trying, what's the point? And you can do it, Christina, get a boat. I mean, you can make 22,000. I mean, my daughter's done it, my son's done it. Boats are super cheap right now. I mean, and if you can get somewhere to process, or even just get your fish somewhere where you can process, you don't have to catch a ton of fish. You know, you only have to catch a ton of fish if you're selling it for peanuts. So, I don't know. It just seems like more money that I'm looking. Yes, I came late because my daughter just told me about this, but, you know, that picture I'm looking at there looks freaking expensive, and who's going to maintain it? And why not take that money and buy permits for local people, or something? I mean, who's going to run that? Is it going to be a local person? You know, is it going to be people from the university? That I don't know. I guess I'm just, you know, tired of seeing the same old thing. I'm 60 years old. I've been fishing forever, and it's always the same old thing, and it doesn't really benefit the people that live there, the people out there all the time. So, anyway, uh, that just looks like a lot of money, and who is actually going to use it? How are you going to encourage, you know? Yeah, you want to get young fishermen. So why don't you, I don't know if this is even possible, but why don't you give everybody who wants to hire a local young person from a village as a deckhand, a D permit, or I don't know, extra shackle of gear or something like that. I mean, the best trainers are going to be not university people. They're going to be getting on a boat and learning how to do it. I mean,
Greta, I think that's a great idea, and I would love to talk to you or with you about that. I've been talking about that concept for a while, about having a local for-profit educational permit for people in Bristol Bay. That's like a D permit or an extra 25 or something to benefit. I think that would be great, and I would love to chat with you about it. I have my contact info at the end of the presentation, and if you'd like to talk more about it, I would.
Okay, I would. I mean, I did my set net permit for a couple years trying to get fish to shore, and I had a couple of, my daughter's relatives from Togiak as my deckhands, and they were awesome. And now they're, set netting in Togiak, and a lot of it was just fear, like Christina said, just not knowing and getting out there with all the hardcore people, and now they're not afraid. I mean, it's just they need experience, I guess. Anyways, okay, I'm done talking. Sorry I hijacked this thing, but I just had to pipe in.
That's all right. And this is also recorded. And so if you want to go back and watch the beginning afterwards, feel free. So yeah, we've got a few more minutes, so I'll just go through this. So this is one from 1987, a seafood industrial park that was proposed in 1987. It was researched. It was very expansive. I have the report here as well. It covered a lot of different things. They also recognized in 1987 that, quote, the city of Dillingham has long been one of the economic centers for the largest commercial salmon fishery in the world. For many reasons, however, a substantial portion of the economic benefits generated by the Bristol Bay fishery are not retained within the regional economy. So I think this is very telling that this is 40 years ago they recognized the need for something like this, and we're trying again, for want of a better term. So definitely very important, and it's not the first time that we've tried to figure this out. So the program that we received was to do a research sort of grant. It's called a Type 2 planning grant, and it's for 2 locations, Dillingham and Naknek, and it's for 2 years. It's trying to understand what is best for those 2 communities to help out both those 2 communities as it relates to the commercial fishing industry, but also people in surrounding areas, villages, communities, and not just folks here, but here and people in Bristol Bay as much as possible. So each location will have a final report, final presentation, and we'll have that as a resource for future efforts. So the first stage is just exploring the possibility of creating a seafood innovation center. And again, I'm just using that term to try to be all-encompassing. But if some people want cranes and that's the focus, or if they think phase 1 is cold storage facility or whatever, we're just using seafood innovation center as like the terminology to try to cover as many bases as possible. But we'll try to identify partnerships, funding opportunities, sustainable designs, energy, and configurations addressing folks' most pressing needs, as well as the pros and cons for placement in each location, and then work on a modular method so that not everything is trying to be accomplished in one fell swoop. But if we say, all right, this is a potential 3-year program, and year 1, we're building cranes, year 2, we're building cold storage facility, year 3, we're building processing facility or something like that. Just coming up with different ideas so that it's not just trying to solve it all at once, like all or nothing sort of. So these are some examples of different infrastructure needs that I came up with at dorm facility. So we do a lot of training here at the Bristol Bay campus with BBRCTE, which is Bristol Bay Regional Career and Technical Education Program. which is high school kids who are interested in getting into the commercial fishing industry, or maybe in the commercial fishing industry and want to expand their knowledge about, the different things like small engines, outboard mechanics, welding, things like that. But one of the linchpins of it is not having a dorm facility here where we can get more students in to put on classes and to have larger classes. And there's a lot of ways it could help out the community. Training facility, cold storage facility, processing facility, meeting hall, fish waste grinder, cranes, could be all sorts of different things. We'll create a leadership group with the different BVs, BVDC, BVNC, BVNA, etc. Tribal groups, Bristol Bay Guardians, the city, the Bristol Bay Borough, individuals. We basically want to hear from individuals as well as organizations to better understand what people want, why they want it, and how it ranks on priority and helping them immediately. We'll also go through other communities' feasibility study. Cordova did a cold storage feasibility study 2 years ago. So learning from that, traveling to locations that have these resources available and learn from their lessons learned. And if they were to do it differently, how would they do it differently, sort of thing. So like Kodiak, as I talked about before, Alaska Sea Grant has the Seafood and Marine Science Center, and they have harbor resources there. So learning from them. Valdez, they have the Prince William Sound College, and Petersburg, they have a cold storage facility and co-managed cold storage facility in Petersburg. And so just learning from them what worked, what didn't, and why. Present the findings. Again, we'll do it one for Dillingham, one for Naknek, and we'll present the findings from both to each location, and then have this as a resource for future endeavors. All right, now I have the thoughts, comments, and concerns, and then if you want to contact me, here is my contact information. See a lot of chats, so I'm going to stop sharing. Look in the chat. All right. Okay, well, it doesn't look like there's any questions in the chat. Any thoughts from folks? Hey, Pat.
Yeah, I'm just curious, those places, what Petersburg, Cordova, Kodiak, have you talked to, do you have a sense of what works and doesn't work already in talking with them?
Yeah, 2 of them have Sea Grant agents, so we have like the reports and we've done interviews and whatnot, but like knowing about the specific location and the specific management and how they do liability or like the ins and outs of everything, we haven't gotten into a deep dive about it.
Does anything stand out as like really works or really doesn't work?
Yeah, I mean, like, so in Petersburg, just preliminarily, they get the land donated by the city for $1 a year. So basically they're getting free land from the city, and that's their contribution. Anchor clients are super beneficial, but not absolutely necessary for Petersburg. And an anchor client is like one big renter that pays for the majority of the costs to sort of offset the individual cost. They have one full-time employee. I think one of their biggest downfalls is that it's not on the water. And so people have to get their seafood into their vehicle and then take it to the facility. Yeah.
A lot of people in Petersburg do this
That you saw their own fish.
Mhm.
I asked one fisherman, I said, do you have RSW? He goes, I don't believe in that, so I use ice. Ice is the best thing. He told me no one wants Bristol Bay fish because it gets too much, too big a quota and too fast.
Yeah, I think there's been an issue where we focus on quantity and not quality. And I think if we had something like a cold storage facility, then we could focus on, like, say, 5% of our catch or 1% of our catch is super high quality that we control, that we take, and then we direct market sort of thing. And that could be something that we do year round. So we put it in this cold storage facility, and then in November and December, we, have deals with grocery stores or restaurants or something, and we can direct market our high quality, well taken care of fish. I see a lot of raised hands. Martin. You're muted, Martin, if you're trying to talk. You're still muted. Adelheid.
Yeah, Tav, just a question about the HACCP training and the smokefish training. I wonder if there's a way that you could look at those programs and evaluate how relevant they are to the traditional smoking of salmon, and just maybe figure out another program that would pass inspection and everything that is a little uh a little more geared towards smoking fish in Bristol Bay.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I think our smoked salmon is incredible. And I definitely think that's worth pursuing. And that's something I think once we get Chris here, who's the one who teaches all that, we can get a lot of information from him and knowledge from him about those requirements. And yeah, I think that value added opportunity for Bristol Bay would be huge. Any luck, Martin? Getting off mute? All right. And I see, Tommy, you put a couple links in the chat. You want to address those at all?
Oh, sure. So for those who don't know, I live in Cordova. And so in Cordova, we have a Sea Grant employee, John Williams, who's also on the line here. I work for University of Alaska Fairbanks and have been in here in Cordova for 15 years now. Have done work in Valdez as well. And so when I saw Tav's announcement for this presentation, it just reminded me of a conversation taking place in Prince William Sound where folks are trying to figure out how to leverage existing facilities and relationships to, benefit their interests, often which they're mutual benefits there for both communities. So Valdez Fisheries Development Association is a nonprofit organization in Valdez that's focused on fisheries development. They're one of the state's salmon hatchery operators, so that doesn't apply all over the state, but they do engage in, they have a cold storage facility in Valdez, they have a seafood processing facility there, and they're very generous and open to integrating community users into that. So Tav, if and when you all go to Valdez, I would love to be along on that trip because I think that's an asset for this region. As funding dollars kind of dry up, the development and construction of VFDA's facility, for example, would probably cost $20 million plus. Nowadays, it's going to be difficult to construct that in Cordova, but if we can do something to develop those connections between the two communities, perhaps folks here in Cordova could utilize that. We're about 70 miles away by boat. So just wanted to share that. Thanks. great presentation. Congratulations on getting the planning grant.
Thank you, Tommy. Thanks for that info. Any other thoughts? Yeah, Martin, I can hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Nice. Hi, Tav. Just wanted to say thanks for putting this presentation on and share my thoughts about this. That these programs, you know, they can really are either going to, or there's a chime in the background, isn't there? Okay, can you hear me now?
It's coming in and out a little bit. Can you start over?
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Is good.
Okay.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah. So wanted to say thanks for putting this on, and just my thoughts on programs like this, and you know, like the BBDC helped me quite a bit when I was getting my start. But just something that I was thinking about in midwinter when I was welding and it was -5 out is that if you're going to be a commercial fisherman, you have to have the mindset that no matter what hardships you encounter, you're going to make it through and continue and solve whatever problem yourself first. Not to discount the programs, but you have to have an indomitable spirit to overcome no matter what. So that's all.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it for sure. Thank you. Thank you for attending. Any other thoughts from Pat? Yeah.
I was back to look at very interesting about the loss of permit. The figures you have, is that just in-state or is it like all of the,
That's
per Dillingham area?
That's Bristol Bay. That's on BBNA's website. If you want to do a deeper dive.